Hey everybody, it's Jamie. Today's video I wanted to talk about the new Spider-Man Homecoming. Me and my family and my best friend Christine went and saw it the night it came out at the 7 o'clock showing at our local theater, and it was packed. Sorry for any of the noises my dog is making over yonder. Anyways, we went and saw it and I loved it. I thought it was a really good Spider-Man. I wasn't really a big fan of Andrew Garfield's section of Spider-Man because I loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and I love those movies. There's a couple things I didn't like about them, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Wasn't a fan of Andrew Garfield, so I was very skeptical when before Civil War they started throwing around, oh, Spider-Man, and I'm like, oh, I didn't like I liked the last Spider-Man, but I don't know, like, when it was just Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, when someone would say Spider-Man, I just automatically think Tobey Maguire. Now, if you ask me Spider-Man, I would think Tom Holland, and then Tobey Maguire, and then Andrew Garfield. And that's kind of the order that I currently like them in. But I have some notes. Not this whole thing. That would be insane. But yes, I really like the new one. I think Tom Holland is like the perfect Spider-Man. I liked that they finally have him like as a kid and he looks like a kid, because I feel like, because I'm a 90s kid, so I feel like, you know, late 90s, early 2000s television, they had actors that were a lot older than, you know, what age they were playing, which gave us the idea that we would look like we were 23 when we were in high school. So I think the fact that Tom Holland, he was 19 when they started filming, I think for Civil War, I think he's 20 or 21 now, but he looks young. He looks like a teenager, which I think is what Spider-Man needed, because now they can finally bring Aunt May, you know, from when Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, she's really old. Andrew Garfield, we've got some Sally Field. I was very happy about that. She looks quite a bit younger. But now we have the new Aunt May, who looks like, you know, she's in like her late 30s, 40s, and then all of a sudden she's tasked with caring for a kid. So she kind of has the right personality, she's still young, you know, and everything like that. But I personally think all the Spider-Man movies have been really good. Obviously others are better and others are worse. Tobey Maguire's has become a real gold mine for memes. Beautiful. And he has the ugliest crying face. I think everybody in the entire universe agrees about that. But Christina and I were talking about this, they all have their pros and cons for watching them. It depends what you want to watch them for. Like if you wanted to, you know, binge watch everything with the Avengers, then obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the one you're going to watch because he connects into something, whereas the other two Spider-Mans, both Andrew and Tobey's, are kind of their own little independent thing. They have their own little independent universe, and so you don't really, I mean, for Tobey Maguire's, you can watch all three of them and that's it. He doesn't branch out into anything else. He has his own set of villains and his own set of people. What else did I want to say about that? I lost my train of thought. Another thing that you could watch, you know, each individual one for is depending on who you like as love interest, because you have Andrew Garfield's Gwen Stacy and Tobey Maguire's, you have classic Mary Jane. Both very different kind of women, both have different passions, and both Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst and Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone have different sets of chemistry. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's, for me, seems really realistic and true, because it was. They were dating at the time, they were together, it made sense, and I think their personalities mesh very well, whereas Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, it kind of has that nerdy boy gets the really pretty girl in the end kind of chemistry, where it's like, you think they would, as a couple, probably wouldn't work, but it actually really does. I kind of wanted to make this video kind of why they're all good and kind of, you know, what each one has, because for me that's kind of what I do in my head when I was watching Spider-Man Homecoming, especially between the love interest and the best friend. So like traditionally Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, we have Harry Osborn. who's played by James Franco, which in my head, he will always be Harry Osborn, and I love him as Harry Osborn. But their relationship in the original Spider-Man series is they're really good best friends, and then all of a sudden Harry just kind of like falls off the deep end, and you're like, oh my god, ultimate betrayal. Whereas in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, it's more of like they were friends when they were younger, and then Harry got shipped off over yonder and has been a party kid, and then all of a sudden he comes back, and then he kind of again falls off the deep end. Whereas I feel like Spider-Man Homecoming with, is his name Ned? Yeah, it is Ned. So with Ned and Peter's relationship in Spider-Man Homecoming, I feel like it's, for one, he's not Harry Osborn. So I don't even know if they're going to bring Harry Osborn in a form of some kind. They kind of, spoiler alert, Zendaya's character, her nickname is MJ. We find that out at the end. So they're kind of bringing in something of a Mary Jane-ish character. They're like harking back to the past two Spider-Mans. And so I don't know if they're going to do something like that with Harry Osborn, but Tom's Spider-Man and his best friend Ned have a very different chemistry than to both the Harry Osborns and Spider-Mans for Tobey and Andrew. I feel like with Ned and Peter, it's very realistic in the fact that they're nerds and they're nerd best friends. It kind of reminds me of me and my friend and a few of my best friends, whereas if one of us were to become a superhero, we would act exactly like Ned. And then also I like that they're not, although Peter's never been the popular kid in school, but he's not really friends with any of the popular kids in school. He has a crush on a senior girl who's really popular, but he's not like Harry Osborn's, you know, rich and popular, but he chooses to hang out with Peter, whereas I feel like Peter and Ned are just like thrown together and they're like, yes, we're best friends. But I like that for every movie they change that dynamic. It gives it a little bit more of an interest because you never know where Peter's friends and allies are gonna lie. Next dynamic that I also really pay attention to in the Spider-Man movies is the relationship one. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I like that in Spider-Man Homecoming, I mean, it's just like a normal teenage crush, you know, she's a senior girl, he's a sophomore, you know, things like that. It kind of, I don't know, the Homecoming really personified what high school was actually like, but of course, obviously a little bit more dramatic because, well, he's Spider-Man. But it gives an interesting dynamic because he's actually younger than the woman he's supposed to be in love with. And he looks younger, he acts younger, and I think it gave a good chemistry. I don't know where I'm going with this point. I don't remember. I also, again, I mentioned this already, I like that in Spider-Man Homecoming that Aunt May is young, but I do like that the dynamic of Peter and Aunt May has stayed somewhat the same. She's obviously still a parent figure, but she's not his mom. And he would do anything to protect her that he doesn't tell her, like that he's the Spider-Man. But yet she subsequently worries about him anyways. And I think that's a real key part for Aunt May, and that Spider-Man, just as a background origin story, really needs that support, but yet, like, they know enough to, like, let him be a teenager and figure out whatever the heck he needs to figure out. The only Spider-Man that really had Uncle Ben in it was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and I think the fact that the other two don't really have him actually works because we've all been established, at least the older generation, so like people my age, and then even like people in my brother's age, like that are currently in high school and stuff like that, they've been connected with Tobey Maguire's Uncle Ben, and they know with great power comes great responsibility and all of that. And so I think the fact that they kind of phase out Uncle Ben down the line is okay because we're still established with that original Tobey Maguire Uncle Ben. I think that's all I have to say about this. I really enjoyed the new Spider-Man. I've always enjoyed the Spider-Mans. I love the original ones. If you're looking for a good, like, soundtrack, not a movie score, soundtrack, Spider-Man 2, I love that soundtrack. It's one of my favorites, and it's the most random thing ever. So, I'm going to end this video right here, right now. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe down below. It really helps me out, and it makes me happy. Also, leave comments, opinions, questions down below. I do want to say that Spider-Man Homecoming isn't necessarily scary, like, for little kids and stuff. It would be a really good movie if you have a kid that'll sit through, I think it's like 2.5 hours or 2 hours or something like that. If you have a kid that'll sit through a movie that long, Spider-Man's a really good one to go see. Before I continue to blab on and make editing Jamie crazy, I'm going to end this. Subscribe, thumbs up, I will see you guys sooner rather than later. So goodbye.